So guys, this is video 2 on a playlist I've made in regards to the teachings of Advaita Vedanta, because I make so many videos and I thought I'd make a structured playlist for any beginners out there. And ideally this would have been video 1, but it's alright, it's video 2 in this playlist. And in this video, let's understand what the problem is Advaita Vedanta is saying is with us and how to get out of it. Let's map out a framework, a timeline of where we are and what we're trying to achieve. Because if you're anything like me, I have this saying where I say, I don't feel like I chose spirituality, it chose me. I stumbled into it and I went down dead ends, misunderstandings of teachings. At some point wanted to leave these teachings, thought they were ridiculous. So I don't want that for you guys. I want you to have a clear pathway to inner peace, which the teachings of traditional Advaita Vedanta give you. Now, first of all, they only used to teach this type of knowledge to qualified students. It was the path of knowledge, not the path of belief. You were meant to know this, not believe it. What was a qualified student, and why did they only want to teach to qualified students? A qualified student was someone with a clear, calm, pure mind. What is a clear, calm mind? A mind that has the ability to focus on what these teachings are saying, because these teachings can be very subtle and nuanced. You need to be able to pay attention. What is a pure mind? It doesn't mean a good mind, it just means a mind that's kind of lost interest in this world, has seen the limitations of this world. And look guys, it's logical, our attention needs to go somewhere. If it's not focused on the world, it needs to go somewhere. And for the spiritually inclined and philosophically inclined, if it's not in the world, if it can't be directed outward, it goes inward. So this was the ideal type of student. Concentrated mind, and a mind not so focused on this world, because you intuit there's no lasting happiness here. That's what makes it pure. Not caught up in thinking about the world so much. Also, why would they only want qualified students? Logical again, because these ancient gurus would take students in and have to feed and shelter them. Kind of like a scholarship. We would all love a scholarship to university, but universities only take in qualified students that have potential, for scholarships that is, because they see this person has potential, so they're willing to pay for them. Exactly the same way as these teachings. See, when you remove all this God talk, all these orange robes, it gets down to very practical and logical ways of thinking. And again, like I said, this is the path of knowledge. Logically and systematically showing you the problem and the solution. Enlightenment through thinking. But then you've got to go beyond thinking for the true benefits, of course. So let's start at the beginning. What do they say our problem is? We have ignorant thinking about the world and ignorant feelings about the world. We are aligned in ignorance. That's the only thing we've got going for us. At least we're in alignment. We think about the world in a certain way and we act in alignment with that thinking. Now, ignorance does not mean stupidity like it does in the West. It means you're just not seeing reality correctly. You're born in ignorance. And I grew up a Christian, and this reminds me so much of what they say in Christianity, born with original sin. When I look at the teachings of original sin and born in ignorance, it's so similar to me. So many of these teachings, when you have a well-rounded understanding of many religious and spiritual teachings, they all kind of connect somehow. But in any case, we're born in ignorance. We're born feeling, I'm a separate person in a separate world. That's what that is the job of the ego. The ego gives you the sense and the feeling of separation. Now this is totally harmless, ultimately. But here's the two issues the ego gives us. Feeling of ownership and control. These are the things that Advaita Vedanta are wanting us to see through, because these are the seeds to our suffering. Pain is to the body what suffering is to the mind. I'm using the definition of suffering that they use in Buddhism, which is suffering is in the mind in the sense of it's all your thoughts. You can experience pain, animals can experience pain, but animals don't suffer. They experience pain, but they don't think about it. We experience pain and think, why has this happened? Not again. Who did this to me? Or feelings of anger. They did it to me because they have free will. I'm so guilty because I've got free will. All this, they're trying to get rid of in Advaita Vedanta thinking. Also with Buddhism. So in any case, we come to these teachings with ignorant knowledge and ignorant feelings about the world. What is the end goal? Enlightening knowledge and enlightening feelings. And feeling is the most important, by the way. What we truly want in this life is to feel at peace, to feel oneness. Because if you just know this knowledge intellectually and don't feel it, what's the point? I had this problem for many years. Until I started feeling it, and then it all fell into place. But in any case, that's where we start, guys. Ignorant knowledge and feelings of ignorance about the world. The teachings of Advaita Vedanta have 3 stages: Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. What is Shravana? Coming to these teachings, listening to what they're saying with an open mind. That's another thing of the qualified student. Coming to these teachings with a clear, calm, concentrated mind and open. They don't want you coming to these teachings with your arms crossed, like I'm here not to listen and to ignore everything you're saying, to try to battle you, what you're saying. They also don't want you to come to these teachings with a belief mindset. I believe it. Just because I think you're so great, I believe it. No, you need to understand this. You need the mindset of, I understand this, not I'm believing it or I'm here to prove you wrong. That's another thing the qualified student had. So Shravana, it's listening to these teachings with an open mind, understanding what they're trying to tell you. There is the one appearing as many. Your true self is not this body and mind. You need to understand what they're saying. You need to be able to, at a certain point, repeat back to them what they're saying. This will go on for as long as you need, understanding the whole concepts and ideas of this teaching. Once you've got a firm grasp of what they're saying, you move into the next stage, Manana, which is, look, I understand what you're saying, but I've got so many questions. How is this even possible? I get it, but what about this? What about that? You say there is pure consciousness. You say I'm pure consciousness that is never coming and going, but what about in deep sleep? Doesn't consciousness shut off in deep sleep? What happens at death? You need to ask all these questions and get the answers that will satisfy the intellect. Understand the teachings, ask all the questions until you're intellectually convinced, until there is no doubt. Again, however long this takes, spend the time with it. So you understand it, intellectually convinced as you are right now of being this person, living a life. But the funny thing about being this person living a life is, what does Socrates say? The unexamined life isn't worth living, which is, we just assume we're this person, don't we? We just assume we know all this stuff about the world, which was fed to us. We don't really investigate. Advaita Vedanta is asking you to use the scientific method instead of outwardly, inwardly. Really look what's happening. That's why it's so radical. It's actually telling you to use critical thinking inwardly. Forget all these stories about the world. These stories are fine, but you'll realize they're just all stories. Everything's a story. But this is showing you directly your true self and some truths about yourself that you just never investigated. But in any case, you hear these teachings. You ask all the questions. Once you're intellectually convinced, now you need to absorb these teachings. This is what Nididhyasana is all about. Nididhyasana is basically going from intellectual understanding to feeling these teachings. What's the point of having all this knowledge if you don't feel it? An example of this would be like, just say you grew up with low self-esteem. You thought you were ugly, you thought you had no potential, and people were telling you, no, you're attractive, you have potential. They can convince you why, but you don't feel it. So what's the point? Everyone can see you're attractive, have potential, but you're like, no, I'm not. I'm ugly and I have no potential. You need to be intellectually convinced, if you're in that state of mind, why you're attractive, why you have potential, and then start living it. Then you can embody what is true. You're attractive, you have potential, now start feeling it, start living it. This is what Nididhyasana is all about. Sitting in meditation, contemplating these teachings. There's 2 ways meditation can be used, isn't there? What we think about, sitting there, focusing on the breath, trying to get rid of thoughts, or meditations in the sense of sitting with knowledge in silence and contemplating it. Like the meditations of Marcus Aurelius from Stoicism. He wrote down all these thoughts. He contemplated all these Stoic teachings, wrote them down. This is what you need to do. Spend time in silence contemplating these teachings, remembering why they're true. When you go about life, altering your behavior to align with these teachings. There's a saying that Christians say, what would Jesus do in this scenario? In these teachings, you need to realign your knowledge like that. In the sense of, when you're feeling feelings of anger, jealousy, desire, use that to remember this knowledge. Why am I feeling angry if it's all one? Why am I desiring if it's all one? Now guys, this is going to take a long time, but what I'm saying is, nididhyasana is aligning your actions with this knowledge. Keep referring back to this knowledge until your actions and knowledge are in alignment. This will take the rest of your life. Basically, what enlightenment is, what liberation is in Advaita Vedanta, is when the knowledge, the enlightening knowledge, and your actions are in alignment. It's like those padlocks where you line up all the numbers. Once it's all in alignment, you will know this knowledge and feel it, live it. You'll see oneness, you'll feel oneness. And at that point, you'll be in a state of inner peace, completeness, not have that sense of something's wrong about life, I'm lacking something, something's missing, feeling like I have free will. See guys, this is all these teachings are trying to get you to. There is a lot of God talk. There is a lot of guys in orange robes, and that turns a lot of people off. But when you get down to these teachings, it's a systematic way to inner peace. Now, you might be saying, yeah, but this is a lot of talking and thinking. I thought enlightenment is beyond thinking. It is. Your true self is prior to language. But to really intuit that, we need language. Sri Ramakrishna said, this reality is Maya. It's an illusion, basically. It's like a dream. The knowledge of the world gets you trapped deeper and deeper in the dream. The knowledge of Advaita Vedanta, it's still knowledge in the dream, but it gets you out of the dream. It makes you realize your true self. All this enlightening knowledge is to untangle all this worldly knowledge. You're already stuck in ignorance, so you need enlightening knowledge to untangle all this ignorant knowledge and then go beyond knowledge. True non-duality, your true self, is prior to ignorant knowledge and enlightening knowledge. But to get to that state, you need to work through this ignorant knowledge, get to the enlightening knowledge, and then drop all of it. Even in Buddhism, they have a quote. The teachings of Buddhism are like a raft that you use to get from one side of a bank to another. Once you get to the other side of the bank, put the raft down. The teachings are done. You don't have to carry the raft on your back. See? And this is the issue I found with Neo-Advaita. They take you straight to the top, and it can damage you. Because the tendency for the ego would be, why do all this spiritual practice? Why go on this spiritual path? It's all one. It's all appearing in a boundless awareness. It's going to mess you up. The true attitude you need in spirituality, I found, because I've done all this trying to spiritually bypass, do the Neo-Advaita stuff, is you need to be genuine. You need to be honest with yourself. That is, whatever stage you're at, be honest. Do you feel like a person living a life? Then do spiritual practice. Study Advaita Vedanta. Do you feel like you've got free will? Freely use that free will to meditate. Study Advaita Vedanta. Show love, understanding, compassion to others. Be honest where you're at and take it from there. Use the teachings from the level that you're at. At a certain point, all these teachings of my illusion, my identity is an illusion, I have no free will, you won't have to believe it. It'll be a fact. It'll be so clear to you. There's no point believing anything. Be honest with where you're at and enjoy this path. In Advaita Vedanta, they say, this is a path from ignorance to knowledge. It's just a path from ignorance to knowledge. And if you truly love spirituality, if you truly want to be free and end your suffering, this isn't something on your to-do list. Get a job, get a relationship, get enlightened. No, it'll become your whole life. And don't freak out by that. It becoming your whole life, because that's what the teachings of Karma Yoga are for, which is, we think to be spiritual is to wear a robe on the outside. No. To truly be spiritual, It's not about colouring your body orange in a robe, it's about colouring your mind. Renounce the world internally while still living in it. See the divinity in your family. See the divinity in your friends. See the divinity in the people you don't like. They don't know you're doing this. They don't know you're practicing karma yoga. They don't know you have a spiritual mindset. On the surface, you're just living a life, taking care of family, going to work. That's the most important thing. Renounce the world internally. You don't have to run away. But in any case, guys, just to finish off this video, Advaita Vedanta is a systematic and logical approach to inner peace. They show you where you start at. You're in ignorance. Your thinking is in ignorance. Your feelings are in ignorance. As you progress through these teachings, you'll get enlightening knowledge, but still have the feelings of ignorance. You're like, I've got all this knowledge, but nothing's changing. Because you're not doing spiritual practice. Or you're not in the state of nididhyasana yet, where you haven't answered all your questions. Once all your questions are asked, you go from ignorant knowledge, ignorant feeling, enlightening knowledge, ignorant feelings, then eventually with all the spiritual practice that opened you up, love, service, devotion, meditation, you'll have the feelings of oneness. Then it all lines up. There's no skipping ahead. Anything worthwhile in life takes hard work. So don't fall for the Neo-Advaita trap. No one here, nothing to do. In boundless awareness, I felt like hurting this person. In boundless awareness, I didn't want to be hurt back. In boundless awareness, I didn't want them to get revenge, so in boundless awareness, stop them. Stop playing these egoic word games. It's going to sound like a comedy routine, and no one's going to benefit. That's all I'm saying, guys. So again, this is part 2 in this playlist on Advaita Vedanta. Ideally, it would have been part 1, but it's all right. The first video is dealing with self-inquiry. And in later videos, I'm going to talk about spiritual practice, how to use this teaching day to day, all the beautiful stuff that you want and need for inner peace in a practical, everyday sense. That's all these teachings are wanting you to do. Not to be so mysterious and woo-woo mystical. No, it's meant to end your suffering here and now. And that's what I'm attempting to do in this playlist. Hopefully it helps you guys, seriously. Also, I'm still going to make a lot of other content about self-help. So bear with me if you're not into that stuff, please. In any case, guys, take care of yourselves.